So this is my video about my blood pressure history and how it relates to this pregnancy that I have right now. So, okay, I'll start off with just a general summary. My blood pressure, I'm technically not hypertensive. I do not technically have high blood pressure, but my blood pressure can go up very, very, very easily. So I kind of call myself as like hypersensitive, or like my body is hypersensitive, and my blood pressure can go up really quickly. So the things that I've been able to find that will raise it are decongestants, ibuprofen, being sick, anxiety, and sodium. Those are the 5 things that I notice that if I take any of those or have too much of any of that, my blood pressure will rise. But if none of that is in the picture, my blood pressure is normal and fine. So for my history, when I was growing up, for as long as I can remember when they started taking my blood pressure, it was textbook 120 over, it was 120 over 80. And it kind of just stayed that way. And then when I was, oh my word, early 20s was when it originally went up. During that time, I was going through a very, very stressful period of time in my life. Lots of uncertainties. I had a really nasty breakup. I was just like devastated. Kind of went through a bit of a depression. And the stress just got the best of me. It was like, the best way I can describe it is like the adrenaline never went away. Like I was just always tense and upset. And I lost a lot of weight and my blood pressure went up. After that, it didn't seem to go down very much. Like my average blood pressure reading would be 140 over 90, which is considered high. So then I did, because I worked in the hospital and I had, access to blood pressure machines. One of my friends did some research and she was like, I read this thing about people having sodium sensitivities. Why don't you try a low sodium diet and just see how that goes? Because this was before I found any of the other links, right, to my blood pressure. So I'm like, okay. So I went on this like reduced sodium diet. I've never been one to really sprinkle a lot of salt in my food anyways to taste. Like when you have corn on the cob, things like that, I will add some salt, but otherwise. But, through that time, I got to, a real eye-opener to see how much sodium is in our everyday products, especially things like breads and cereals, not just the normal things that you think of that would have a lot of salt, like ham, soups, chips, of course those things have a lot of salt in them, but these everyday things like raisin bran, oh my word, raisin bran, that's what's awful for you, the amount of salt in it, and even some soups are astonishing. Like I used to love like the Itchy Bang kind of noodles, and some things can have like up to 1,700 milligrams of sodium if you drink all that broth. So anyways, I just started getting really good at reading labels, and I was very conscious of what I was eating, and I did that for 1 month, and I increased my cardio, and my blood pressure dropped. My blood pressure, I believe it went down to like 117 over like 70. It was amazing. It just plummeted. So that was my first thing I learned. I'm like, okay, well, I'm the type of person that if I eat like other people eat, just normal products without looking at sodium labels, my blood pressure is elevated. And then, so I lived like that for a bit, and then I got pregnant with Zayden. And my blood pressure was fine. And then it went up at 32 weeks. But what also happened at 32 weeks was there was I don't want to get in details of it because it's already dealt with, but something had happened in my past, and certain family members did not like that it came out, and thought that it was more something that should be left internalized, I guess. And the fight that happened was absolutely ridiculous, and the treatment of me was ridiculous because it shouldn't have happened. They knew I was pregnant, and anyways, my blood pressure went right up at that time. And I'll never know if it would have gone up anyways without that, but that stress and those issues were unbelievable, and it was just the wrong time. And I know that anxiety will increase my blood pressure. So it went up with Zayden, and then I had a premature. After Zayden, my blood pressure was still high, and I was on a lot of ibuprofen, which I didn't realize increased it until after Venix. And we were still having some family issues, and I ended up going to the hospital one day because now with Venix, or with Zayden, I found out with later ultrasound that I had a secondary placental lobe. So I probably had a twin. That's their thinking, right? Anyways, I was supposed to remind them when I had Zayden that, it needs to come out too. And they thought I had. And I had a lot of bleeding postpartum. Well, it didn't. Like a couple days after being discharged home, I passed the placenta. Really disgusting. So I had to take it back to the hospital, and I'm like, this is rather my uterus or my placenta lobe that I told you guys about. And they thought it was really cool, but it was disgusting, and my body was like in shock. Like I was so scared. And up again, it went there because they always check your blood pressure there. They did blood work at that time, and they found that the liver enzymes were in the blood. So I went on blood pressure medication. I think I was on it for about a month, and then it came off, and my blood pressure was fine. 120/80, around there. And then nothing. Then with Venix, they were conscious of it because of with Zayden, and my blood pressure was fine again until I went into labor and delivery, and it was high. So they put me high risk and labeled me like hypertensive, and had all the like round the clock blood work. It's so annoying. They like wake you up all through the night, random times, just to take your blood work and check your blood pressure. It's so frustrating. It's so annoying. I'm just praying it doesn't happen this time, but it probably will. And my liver enzymes, everything was fine, and it remained high for a while afterwards. But again, I was taking like 2 ibuprofen every like 4 to 6 hours. It wasn't until I got home and I researched it that I found out. Because I'm like, why is this? This is the same as it was with Zayden. Why is this? And the link between it was ibuprofen. I went off the ibuprofen, my blood pressure went down. It's just very, very sensitive. And then it went back down again. And it started getting high. Like I started taking it when I was sick, like with colds and stuff. And that's when I found the link with decongestants. And I asked my doctor about it. She's like, yeah, it's like rare, but some people are that sensitive they can't take decongestants, or it'll increase their blood pressure. So I found out that's another thing I couldn't take for my body.